an arch, a freeway arch to a bridge here in downtown Nashville. It's about 1 o'clock in the morning here, June 20th, downtown Nashville. This is the on-ramp to Interstate 40, I think. Out of Nashville. The freeway's quiet. I just woke up. Last of the revelers, I guess, from the bars in Nashville headed home. I was reminded last night of something that happened years ago in California, Pasadena, when I was homeless there. I used to, my squat then was a stairwell in a seminary, Fuller Seminary. I don't know, some of these, some old people might remember Fuller, Pastor Fuller. Anyways, he started a seminary in Pasadena, quite popular, very popular nowadays. Anyways, I used to squat in the stairwell there. Used to have my 40 and you know, every day I squat there. Anyways, I noticed like on the weekends, somebody kept coming in at like an ungodly hour. Of course, the campus was for the most part closed on the weekend, but for some reason at 4 or 5 in the morning, somebody was waking me up. It was like I'd be sleeping there on the ground floor, in the stairwell, and students usually were great with me. I mean, they never bothered me. You know, it's like, yeah, he's a homeless guy that, you know, is well educated. Everybody knows him. Everybody knows he's there, but you know, nobody bothered him, and nobody bothered with me, and it was great. And it was like, you know, got along fine. Anyways, on the weekends, I don't remember. I think it probably the summer. I don't know what year. But I was squatting in the stairwell. And somebody kept waking me up at like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, parking right next to the stairwell, and then going through the stairwell to the street, from the parking garage to the street. And it you know, every weekend this was happening, and for some reason this person was making like real loud noises to make sure that I knew that he was here, and you know, going through the stairwell, and you know, and this happened like weekend after weekend after weekend, and you know, I couldn't understand why couldn't he just park the car, go through the stairwell and into his business. It seemed to me like he was deliberately making an issue out of being there. So one weekend, I confronted him. I heard him coming. I heard his car. I heard him park. I heard him like slam his car door like 5 times, in the garage, right next to the stairwell, and it's like, I'm here, I'm like, all right. So he walked into the stairwell, and I surprised him because I'm standing at the other side of the stairwell, and he looked up, and it's like, oh, all right. And I just, it was like it was a confrontation, an intervention. I don't know. I said, I'm homeless, and I've been squatting here. I've been sleeping here, and it's like, like nobody bothers me, because I don't bother anybody. But it's like, I've noticed that, like, you have this inclination. He was about 25 years old, man. I said, you have this kind of inclination of like making an issue when you come into an empty parking garage here at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, of like, announcing that you're here. I said, it's bothering me. And I said, I think you're doing it deliberately. And he said, well, what's it to you? I said, man, what's it to me? You're waking me, like I'm sleeping, and like you're waking me up, and unnecessarily, and that bothers me. I said, it's fine if you're just doing it because you're doing it, but I think you're doing it deliberately to mess with me, And I said, I really don't care for it. And he said, well, what are you going to do? I said, well, what I'm going to do is I'm doing it. I'm standing here in this very small stairwell, and I'm 6'2". I may be 40, 45 years old, and you may be 25 years old, but I got a little passion on my side. I got a little motivation on my side. And it's early morning, and I don't know, I'm assuming you slept real well. And I'm angry. And so, I have a little bit more passion and motivation on my side. I said, I just wish you would stop doing this. He said, well, I'm not going to stop doing it. And I said, I couldn't believe like the insolence. I couldn't believe like the attitude. I said, why? Why not? I'm letting you know it's bothering me, and like you got a whole parking lot empty here where you can park anywhere you want to. I said, why are you bothering me? He said, you're homeless. I said, what? He said, you're homeless. I can do whatever I want